Max had been a present for Dylan's 14th birthday, and ever since, he had always been a mystery to the neighbors. He was a massive jet-black shepherd with glowing amber eyes, and he never seemed to leave the yard. He didn't bark much, but when he did, it gave anyone within earshot chills. The neighbors whispered, saying Max was too quiet, too watchful, too hungry-looking. Dylan knew his dog better than anyone. Max wasn't dangerous. He was loving, just protective. But to be safe, he always kept Max on a short leash. One evening, Dylan took Max for his nightly walk later than usual. The other neighborhood kids were still outside playing under the light of the full moon. Max had struggled on his walk, constantly pulling, trying to head toward the woods at the edge of the neighborhood. Dylan had used all his treats up just to get Max home. When they finally arrived, Dylan tied Max to the front porch and headed inside to get a treat. Max sat still, his eyes trained on the tree line beyond where the children were playing. Dylan had only been inside a few seconds when he heard the scream. His heart leapt into his throat as he rushed outside. Max was still on the porch, but he was at attention, baring his teeth. Dylan followed Max's gaze to see kids running frantically toward their homes, faces pale with terror. To Dylan's surprise, one of them, Sarah, was actually running toward them, her breath ragged. She was almost to the porch when the creature appeared. A hulking figure, its shape twisted and feral, emerged from the darkness. A werewolf, its eyes gleamed with hunger, its teeth sharp and dripping with the promise of blood. Dylan's stomach turned. He froze, too horrified to move. Then Max sprang into action. With a growl that vibrated through the air, Max snapped his leash, leaping off the porch, his powerful body crashing into the werewolf. The creature howled as it tumbled backward. Max's teeth sank into the beast's arm, dragging it backwards with a force that should have been impossible for a dog. The werewolf thrashed wildly, shaking the dog loose. Max lunged again, his amber eyes glowing bright as his teeth sinking into the beast's throat. The monster struggled. Max held his grip. The kids were frozen, too scared to even scream, watching as the battle raged before them. Max and the werewolf locked in a brutal struggle, both tearing at each other in the fight for survival. And then, as suddenly as it had started, the werewolf let out a final snarling gasp and collapsed, lifeless, onto the ground. Max stood over the creature, panting, his fur matted with blood. His gaze shifted to Dylan, who was still standing there, wide-eyed. The dog gave a soft whimper, its eyes softening. He trotted back to Dylan's side, nuzzling his hand. Sarah slowly extended her hand toward Max. Max sniffed, then softly licked her hand. Sarah whispered in awe,
"Good boy, Max."
Dylan nodded, still too shocked to speak. As the police sirens echoed in the distance, the other children slowly made their way to the scene, gathering around Max in wonder, each taking turns tentatively petting him. But Max stayed by Dylan's side, even during the police interview. The neighbors never whispered about Max again. Unless it was to say,
"Good boy, Max."